Good morning, dear participants. All protocols observed. My name is George Ambindwile, a chair of this session. As it has been introduced by a previous speaker, this is a panel, a session which centers on the main theme reconceptualization of youth engagement in democratic processes in Tanzania, and it emphasizes on issues of civic education, democratic mandate in education, teacher professionalism, and youth participation in community development. So it is our expectation that youth, by the name of students in this hall, are going also to be the main participants in this discussion. And by starting, we have three presenters who are Dr. Wilberforce E. Maina, who is on my left hand. He is an educational technical advisor for Haki Elimu. And professionally, Maina is a curriculum specialist, and he has worked as a teacher educator. And currently, he is involved in a project of increasing youth engagement in democratic processes in Tanzania through civic education. And the second presenter is Dr. Perpetua Kalimas, on my far left, right, the second from that side. She is a senior lecturer in education management and policy studies at the Department of Education, Foundation and Teaching Management, Mzumbe University. She participated in a study commissioned by Haki Elimu last year. And that study was on youth engagement in learning and the democratic processes in Tanzania, the role of civic education in secondary schools. So she's here to share her experiences on that research. And the last presenter, yes? Okay, oh, sorry. So we are now starting our presentation, and the first presenter is Dr. Perpetua Kalimas. We have a maximum of 20 minutes.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As you have heard my name is Perpetua Kalimasi from Mzumbe University, and I'm here as part of Haki Elimu team. And I feel honored to be here because I've been here as a student, undergraduate student, almost 20 years ago. So I just feel at home. And so I'm glad to share with you some of the findings that we got from the study that we conducted last year as far as youth participation in democratic processes is concerned. share with you is based on the background of the problem, and we have had the background from presentation from Professor Makulilo that is based on the declining level of participation of youth on democratic activities. So what we did in the study is to review the curriculum and some other documents to see the democratic gaps which exist. And the review was based on the knowledge and the skills which exist in the curriculum, teaching and learning strategies which are involved in the teaching and learning of civics, review of instructional materials, and some books. So what we explored in the curriculum include the gaps. We realized that there are some gaps in the curriculum as far as civic education is concerned. And based on the knowledge and the skills and values, we realized that within the civics curriculum, there are some topics. There are a number of topics which exist in the curriculum, including our nation, human rights, responsible citizenship, family life. There are numerous types of contents which exist in the curriculum. But we noticed a gap in terms of time that is used to teach civics in our secondary schools. It was realized that the time is very limited, only 2 hours a week. And it was mentioned by students that we interviewed that the time was not enough for them to learn civics. So in terms of topics or knowledge, skills, and values, the topics were okay, but the time was the gap. And in terms of teaching and learning techniques, in the curriculum it was indicated that teachers should use learner-centered approach, okay? But based on the research that we conducted, it was realized that the facilities were not conducive. Facilities that exist in those schools were not conducive to exercise learner-centered approach. So it was more on teacher-centered approach. And in terms of instructional materials, and this involved the review of various books, books for Form 1 books, Form 2 books. There are relevant contents in those learning materials from one form to another, but the problem was on the facilitation. Teachers who are teaching civics were found to not to have relevant qualifications to teach civics. And some of them didn't went through continuous professional development of teach civics. Some of them were just teachers from history as a subject. So that was the main challenge which we got from the teachers. And because in our in research we also had teachers, we interviewed teachers and other education stakeholders. So there were some complaints about the capacity of them to be involved in the teaching of civics. So in terms of curriculum and techniques and other, those were some of the gaps that we realized out of that research. And then some other gaps were found in the holistic process of school governance, where we expected to have student participation in leadership activities. And in the research, we realized that a majority of students were involved in the process of choosing leaders. And we also realized a low response on the way students put importance of them to participate in those leadership activities or election activities. And the gaps that were found in these school governance issues were related to the fact that some teachers were trying to determine who will be the leader, who will be the monitor, who will be the monitor. Sometimes students wish that they could select, or they could select someone to be the the head boy or the head girl. So sometimes teachers were trying to force someone to be the leader or the class monitor, class monitress, or the leader of different projects based on their wishes. So there were some complaints from students that would wish to participate in that, but sometimes teachers may influence someone not to be a leader or to be a leader in a certain school. So those were some of the gaps. And another aspect that I wanted to share from this research were the perceptions of students on civic education and democratic processes. With regard to these perceptions, students were asked to give their opinions on how they participate in these democratic activities. And majority perceive that it is very important for them to participate, but the importance to participate in these democratic activities was evidenced on the fact that they seem to understand various components of civic education. But despite this kind of understanding that was realized, they were not able to link civic education and democracy. It was realized that they cannot link civic education and democracy. So this reveals a gap between knowledge expected in the curriculum and what happens in practice among learners, because they were not able to demonstrate that they can link effectively civic education and democracy. Now, coming to prospects, civic education and democracy prospects. Despite the fact that the achievement of full democracy is dependent on various factors, because we all understand that we can build democracy through different factors or through different stakeholders, maybe through media, through advocacy programs, in the family, wherever. But we argue in this research that school plays a very significant role in the building of democratic citizens. So the role that schools can play in teaching civic education is still very vital in this case. And practitioners who participated in this research had ideas on how democratization can be improved or can be enhanced in schools. And some of the factors that they said, they gave some recommendations on how best we can improve this democracy. And they talked about factors such as time allocated, that we should increase the time allocated in the teaching of civics. We should build the democratic culture, not only just teaching in terms of values and attitudes. However, apart from all these recommendations that were given by different practitioners, the current reforms of civics, we all understand that in the current reforms, there's a deviation from the teaching of civics as a subject and general studies in O-level and advanced level, respectively, to Tanzanian history and ethics, because this is what has been kind of replaced the teaching of civics in secondary schools, based on the 2013 reforms of curriculum. So this current reform seems to deviate from the current orientation of civic education to Tanzanian history and ethics, which has been linked to Tanzanian socio-economic and political environment. Because what is now in the current syllabus or reforms is that students will be learning Tanzanian history and ethics, and they are supposed to trace it from the before colonial time, during colonial time, and now during the liberalization time. So these are some of the competencies which are there in the current reforms. So there's a kind of a big deviation from what we had before, because we had civics and general studies in advanced level education. So this calls maybe for more discussion, especially from students and other stakeholders, to see how best this kind of deviation can lead us into the way we want it to go towards promotion of democracy, towards the building of democratic cultures among our youth or among learners or among students who are expected to be prospective Tanzanians. So this calls for discussion, and it gives us a little bit around of how best now the recommendations that we had in this study can be achieved. Because some of the recommendations from the study that we conducted include to enhance school governance structure so that we can include the students in the governing bodies, to reduce voting age from 18 years to 14 years, establish democratic clubs in schools, to train civics teachers professionally. In-service teachers of civics should be trained to enable them to deliver relevant and current democratic issues. Review of the civics curriculum to include learning by doing, which are some of the things which we are found to be not very well emancipated in the current curriculum, to strengthen advocacy programs and others. So now this kind of shift that we have right now calls for more discussion because now the recommendations may not be relevant to what we have right now in the reforms that we have in the teaching of civics in secondary schools, because now we have a kind of a different orientation to the concept related to civics, which is now Tanzanian history and ethics. So let me conclude by saying that we intended to see how and to what extent civic education is integrated in secondary school curriculum and the role of that integration to the promotion of democracy among youth. And based on the assessment that we have done, it has been revealed that civic education has made learners to understand some civic knowledge, some civic skills and values, as they understand the essence of the engagement in various democratic processes. However, there are the gaps that exist, that I've said, in curricula and extracurricular activities among youth. And as I've said, the current curricular reforms, as far as teaching of civics is concerned, have turned civic education and its role to democracy around to reflect a shift to Tanzanian history and ethics. A subject to a secondary education. So this curricular shift, as I've said, calls for more discussion on its influence towards building democratic society in Tanzania and in Africa in general. Yeah. So these are some of the issues that I wanted to share with you as far as this study is concerned, and some of other findings from this study will be shared by other panel members. Mr. Chair, I beg to submit.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Wilberforce Maina. I'm working with the Akelim as a technical advisor. And I would like to share with you something about teachers' professionalism in connection to promoting democratic culture in the schools. That's my main focus today. And I'll start by saying that schools, we're expecting school to support or to help students to develop democratic culture. But what is happening today is that school has failed. This is what we are seeing in our school. School as an institution to support democracy is not fulfilling the expectation of modern society because it's failing to develop competence in students to meet the demand of democratic society. This is what we are seeing today. Schools that are engaged and that truly embody democratic enable students to be participatory, critical thinker, and problem solvers within a strong sense of justice. Our experience from the society indicates that school often fell short of fostering the development of people who value diversity, who are autonomous, conscious of others' needs and rights, and who are open citizens who do not wait for others to think on their behalf. Nowadays, we find students, they want us to think on their behalf. And some parents are also complaining that sometimes they do learn for their children. This is the situation we have in our society today because the school has failed to help our children to become democratic. But the school alone cannot do this. We need also the society. We need a very close connection between the school and the society. Unfortunately, what is happening today in our country, whenever there is a problem in the society, the schools are facing a lot of problems, and the teachers are crying, and the curriculum is facing a lot of troubles, because everything is taken to the schools. But for sure, schools cannot do each and everything. The society also should do something. Now, when we come to the notion of democracy in Tanzania, as my colleague has said, in secondary schools, we have the subjects. At least democracy is integrated in the school curriculum. We have that, and we have the subject, civic education. At least in that subject, we can find some aspect of curriculum, some aspect of democracy. Now we are shifting from civic education to history and ethics. And I have reviewed the curriculums. It's hard to find the notion democracy in that documents. And the concept of civic, uraia, is not seen very clearly in the documents. But also democracy can be, in our school systems, we can also foster democracy through teaching and learning. And we're expecting that teaching should be learner-centered, should be participatory. But this also is not happening very much in our education system. And the third part, which I've already said, that we want to see the connection between what is happening in the school and what is happening in the society. Students, they are doing a lot about democracy in the school. Wanajifunza sana kuhusu uraia. We have the students, so allow me to make some kind of code switchings. Hawa wanafunzi wanajifunza sana kuhusu demokrasia shuleni. They do a lot about democracy in terms of papers. But when they go to the society, they find very little. They are not engaged in any way. And my colleague will come to present that. Now we want to see the connection between what is happening in the schools and what is happening in the society. And this is missing. And as my colleague has said, we have the competence-based curriculum in this country, and that curriculum emphasizes of developing critical thinker, autonomous students, and whatever. But it's very unfortunate that teachers, they don't implement curriculum as intended. In fact, we have the competence-based curriculum, but what we're implementing in the school is content-based curriculum. That is the reality. And we don't have the professional civic teachers in this country. I know I have my colleague, maybe some of them will say, most of them, they've studied politics. They are political analysts. Now, I want to discuss two concepts in my presentation. One is about Why this is happening in schools? Because there is a concept of deprofessionalization of teachers. We are deprofessionalizing our teachers because today in our education system, teachers are the humble recipients of the decision made by others. Themselves, they have very little to contribute rather than waiting the academicians, the politicians to describe what they're supposed to do. So in that sense, we don't expect our teachers to foster democracy in the school. And my colleague yesterday, they were complaining a lot about democracy in Africa, but the democracy should start at the family and should start at the school. Yes, that is the reality. We cannot expect our leaders today to become democratic if they are not prepared or nurtured in that way. So if the school system is not working, then we shall enjoy this kind of the problem we have in Africa. So in that sense, we are saying that our teachers are disempowered because they don't have enough autonomy to make decisions. So today I would like to suggest that if we want to really to develop democracy in schools, then we have to prepare our teachers to become democratic professionals. We have to instill the sense of democratic professionalism to our teachers. When I say that the teachers are the humble recipients of what is decided by others, I can give a very clear examples with what is happening today in terms of curriculum development. Teachers in Tanzania, they are not involved to the extent one would like in terms of curriculum development. Most of the decisions about curriculum development, as I said, they are made by the so-called university academicians and the curriculum developers and the practitioners. And if you go to the school today, there is a lot of guidelines, And in Tanzania, they have introduced what we term now as this concept of KPI, key performance objective, or key performance indicators. So they have to prepare a daily lesson plan for each and every subject. They have to fulfill the logbook, and they have to work with to set the performance key indicators, and they have to discuss this monthly. And they have to use the textbook which have been decided by other people, yes, because we are talking about the single textbook policy in this country. So they have to rely on that single textbook. So in that situation, they don't have enough time to make their own decisions. They don't have enough time to support the students to become democratic. And the management system now is making follow-up. I would say that teachers are more responsible to the education system, to the managerial aspects, rather than to the students. Because if they do this, then they'll get their salary, they'll be promoted, and whatever, even if nothing is happening in the classrooms. Now, what I would like to suggest, that perhaps now we need but why this is happening first? If you go, for example, in teachers' college, in Tanzania we have two levels of teacher education. We have college-based and university-based teacher education. Even the way teachers are prepared in teachers' college, again, the system is extremely authoritative. Teacher educators in teachers' college themselves, just like secondary school teachers and the primary school teachers, they are also humble recipients of the decisions made by others. Because in teachers' college, curriculum is highly centralized. So they are also guided again with the lesson plan, scheme of work, KPI, and whatever. So they are taking a lot of time to engage with this kind of activity rather than focusing on helping their students to become democratic professionals. So in that sense, when they go to school, they do the same. because this is the way they've been trained. Similarly, there is a discussion also when you go to the teacher education at the university level, almost some kind of experience is also seen. Yes. Perhaps not much research in these areas, but my discussion with my colleague working at the university, we can also see that the university teacher education also, there is a kind of authoritative kind of teaching. And with the expansion of the university in this country, we have large class agains, we have, just like in primary schools. So sometimes there is no seminars, there is no workshops, and whatever. So in that sense, again, we don't prepare our student teachers to become democratic professionals. Similarly, at the universities. And when we go to teaching practice, for example, in teacher educations, what is happening in teaching practice is that we are focusing very much on what is happening in the classrooms. Student teachers are trained to follow the rule of teaching, purely the didactics. But in the school system, there is a lot of things. There are extracurricular activities, and there is a co-curriculum activities. But not much is happening in terms of supporting student teachers during teaching practice to learn about democracy and to support their students to become democratic. And the notion of democracy, again, the way from my colleague, the start of my colleague. Yes, the notion of democracy, the way the democracy is conceptualized in our education systems is highly linked with the politics. It's highly linked with the politics. But the way in my presentation, I'm thinking that this is a shallow way of defining democracy. We have to expand the notion of democracy, focusing on students' participation in teaching and learning. And if we want to make our teachers to become democratic now, we have to prepare our teachers now to support our students to practice democracy outside the school system. So we need to create a very strong connection between what is happening in the school and what is happening in the society. Currently, our teachers are confined in the classrooms. They are purely classroom teachers. But I think we need to move, I think in a way, they need to go beyond the classrooms. They also need to follow their students outside the school system if we really want to nurture democracy in this country, and if we want to prepare our students to become democratic. Okay. Now, maybe I want to I would like to conclude my presentation by saying that if really we want schools to support the future generation to become democratic, then we have to transform our education system. If we don't transform our education system, we should not expect democracy to grow in our countries. It will be very hard. As I've said already, in an education system like Tanzania and in many African countries, is highly centralized. And there is a very strong control of what teachers are doing. So at least if we can at least support teachers. We can give teachers more autonomy. Then we can expect democracy to flourish in our education system. Because if teachers will continue to be the implementers of decisions made by others, then it will be hard for them even to become democratic professionals. Similarly, I think our teachers' college and university teacher educations, we need to see some kind of the reforms. I would say that in Tanzania for so many years, we have experienced a lot of changes in college-based teacher education rather than university teacher education. The university teacher education, I would say, has continued to be the same for so many years without focusing very much on what is happening in the society. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilberforce, for saving time. Then we have the last presenter, Mr. Malekela.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Malekela. Unfortunately, I was not introduced, so I am a student of this university. I do my master's in strategic and peace studies, but also I'm involved with the Mwalimu Nyerere Foundation as the program officer of the Mwalimu Nyerere Pan-African Young Leaders Fellowship. I've also been participating in various youth platforms which have been discussing the critical matters of youth participation, leadership, and democratic processes, especially the 2020 Tanzania National Youth Manifesto was part of it. But also I participated in the 2020 general election as an aspirant of parliamentary seat in Lupembe. Never mind what happened, they dig it from Wajumbe. Okay, so I'm happy to speak about the participation of young people in leadership and democratic processes. And by young people, as for the definition of the National Youth Development Policy of 2007, Tanzania, we define young people as people who are aged between 15 years to 35 years. And that group, according to the 2022 population and housing census, we constitute 34.7% of the Tanzania population. But interchangeably, sometimes people, they speak of young population below the age of 35 years. In that case, as for the last census, we constitute 77.7% of this country population, people below the age of 35 years. Reasonably, I expect this group, which is more than 2/3 of the country population, to be first involved in the development processes, second, prioritized in the formulation of different strategies, and fourth, participating effectively in decision-making processes that involves their welfares as well. So how is the situation in Tanzania? That's the discussion that we're going to discuss. And by engagement, in my presentation, when I speak about youth engagement, I'll mean the intentional initiative that can be taken by the community to make sure young people participate in society affairs, whether by appointing them, consulting them, or nominating them so that they be on board. But by participation, I borrow the definition of Mataba, who says a process where young people, as active citizens, take part in, express views on, and have the decision-making power on the issues that affects them. Also, participation can be widely understood as a process through which youth, as the stakeholders, influence and share control over development initiatives and the decision over resources which affect them. But why do we insist participation? One scholar called Washak in 2000, sorry a bit. In 2003, offered 3 justifications of why it is important to insist people to participate, especially those people who contribute high number in the population. And he offered 4 justifications. First, the Enlightenment justification, whereby we see young people as the bearers of their own truth that only they can tell, they can share through participation. Second, an empowerment justification, which suggests that participation can fulfill youth rights and shall shift power down the generation. But also the citizenship rational justification that sees participation as a way of maximizing young people's citizenship. And fourth justification, an outcome for relationship-based rationality that suggests that participation reduces the intergenerational conflicts. In my presentation, by leadership participation, I mean the participation of young people in leadership, whether obtained by contesting or by being appointed. So there are some avenues available, some opportunities that are available that can facilitate young people to engage in issues of leadership in Tanzania. Reflecting the 1982 Local Government Act and Villages, which provide the opportunity for citizens to participate in the local level decision makings, young people as well, they have an opportunity to participate, whereby in these village meetings they discuss about different issues of development, they provide, they make decisions, and it is an opportunity for young people to participate. So this is the first opportunity that's available. But how is the case, does young people participate in the local level in your areas? But I was in Mtwara, I think in 2020, and I was doing peace building educations, and we say let's wait and target during the village meetings, whether we'll see young people coming, maybe we can talk to them about the issues of peace. But the participation of young people in the village meetings, where key decision making are made, is very low. The study done by Kimaro in 2020, they indicated that maybe 27% of young people usually participate in village meetings, and at the end of the day, the decisions that are made, the development activities that are approved, and the obligation as well that is provided, young people are always left behind, and their voices is not also incorporated. Another avenue that I would like to speak is the issue of youth participation in political parties. I know after the 1992, Tanzania entered in the multi-party system, and now young people and anyone else in the country has a good opportunity to participate in political parties, and these political parties have created platforms for them, especially the youth wings. We know we have Bavicha, we have UVCCM, Ngome ya Vijana, and many more, which offers young people the trainings on issues of leadership, ideological trainings as well, and maybe leadership of, opportunities of leadership in different areas. So this is one of the avenues which is available, but how is it used by young people to participate in issues of leadership and democratic processes? I find two challenges. First, not all young people are members of political parties, so even although the platform is there, not all of young people are participating. And second, not all political parties offer the same opportunities to young people. Some of these political parties do not have that frequent programs that empowers young people on issues of democratic participation and leadership, maybe offering trainings and maybe participating in different campaigns of influencing change. So obviously, the parties which have majority people, young people who are members of those parties at least will benefit more. And apart from that, when it comes to youth matters, those which does not need necessarily to have political interest, as long as young people are in these political parties, you can see sometimes we are very fragmented, we are very divided on what is our priority as young people. Chadema, Bavicha will have their own, VCCM their own, and at the end of the day, the issues of young people are not addressed because they come with political motives. In the 2007 youth development policy, Tanzania has affirmed that the lack of a clear and neutral platform for young people has made the participation of young people in issues of leadership and democratic processes to be very limited. So that's the issue of political parties. It's there, few are benefiting, and I see now some political parties are establishing ideological schools. I'm not sure if other political parties also will be allowed to establish their ideological schools. Will even they be registered? I'm not sure. So you can see some have many opportunities to that. Another avenue available for young people for issues of leadership and democratic processes is the democratic elections, participating in leadership, democratic elections. After 5 years, Tanzania goes to democratic elections, and we start with the local government authorities, and we go to the to the general elections of councils and parliamentarians and president. The participation of young people in the elections is of two tests. First, they contribute large percentage of votes. They go to vote. So if you want to be a leader in this country, at least you must have the support of young people. But the second test is they are rarely found in the ballot box. Young people are rarely found in the ballot box, like them being contesting, them, like people being voting for young people. It's very rarely. And if we look, I have selected only one case of the 2020 general election, reflecting the parliament thing, how young people are represented in these democratic bodies that makes decision coming from election. If we look on 2020, I have been reviewing what they call Parliamentarians' Reference Book, which shows details of members of parliament, where they come from, the parties they represent, and whether they are by election or by special seats. So the parliament has, in total, it has 393 seats, out of which 264 seats are coming by election. You have to go and contest. And for the 2020 general election, I found that only 14 young people, out of 294, only 14 young people were able to go to contest for leadership, parliamentarians, and to win. And this is only 3.3% of that group. But also there is an opportunity for people to go to the parliament as special seats. And the special seats, according to that reference book, they are 113. And in that 113, Chama Cha Mapinduzi has 94, and the other party, 19 people. They are 19. I hope you know that. So the Chama Cha Mapinduzi, they have, so combined, the special seat members of parliament combined in the 113, those who are young people below the age of 35 years, they are no more than 22. So if you combine the 22 and the 14 people who went through election, in the parliament itself, which makes major decisions of this country, young people are not more than 36, and that is like a portion of 8.6%. So we see in the decision-making organs, still the participation of young people is very limited. And I was, as mentioned before, participated in these elections in 2020. And what I found is, first, the community perception on the level of capacity of young people to be in leadership is very low. And Samuel Jumbe was saying, you are very young and you still have time to come back. And by the way, you are a reserved parliamentarian. Mbunge wa Akiba. The Interparliamentarian Union in 2018 offered a report, and that says, although youth appears to be a key deciding vote for some seeking power, they are still lagging behind in terms of themselves being in the ballot box. And some challenges they outlined is because they are newly coming from their professions, lacking the popularity, not having enough muscles of economy, but also the support from their political parties to be in the to shine in the elections. Another avenue that I'll look quickly is the leaders who are coming by appointments. Tanzania has a very good background of appointing young people in leadership position, and I think we have good examples of Ahmed Salim, appointed at age, I think, of 22, if not 21, to be ambassador. But also even Mwalimu was a young person coming from in leadership, and many others. So Tanzania have kept that culture and has been involving a lot of young people in leadership positions, especially in the district levels, starting with the district administrative secretaries, the district commissioners, the wakurugenzi. And on that note, by the way, allow me to give maua yake Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan for putting young people in leadership positions. And the experience shows these young people in these leadership positions, they come up with new energy, new creativity, and they do a lot of work in bringing community development in their areas. But the test is different as you keep going up in the levels. Go to the regional levels, the regional administrative secretaries. How many are they below the age of 35 years? I didn't find. The regional commissioners as well, I didn't find. If you go to the ministerial levels, the secretariat, the deputy permanent secretaries and the permanent secretaries. If you go to the cabinet, in the cabinet we have 41 members, 51 members, the ministers and the deputy ministers combined. I'm speaking on Tanzania context. There are 51. And I was closely looking how many people are falling under the 77% of the population of Tanzania. And I found only one person, Honorable Uminderiananga, the Deputy Minister of People with Disabilities. So the representation of young people in senior decision-making positions of the country is decreasing as you keep going higher. But also with the public institutions, speak of universities and many others, still the number of young people is very slow. And I was asking myself, what is the problem that in the 77% of the population, don't we have enough people who are capable to be leading maybe in the regions as regional commissioners, in the ministerial levels, in the permanent secretaries? Don't we have them? If we don't have, what's the problem? If they are incapable. If they are incapable, who to be blamed? The young people themselves or those who create capacity to young people? And what should we do? I think that's something can be discussed. The last avenue I will be looking is the issue of legal frameworks. The policy and legal frameworks. Tanzania has been putting in place a lot of policy and legal frameworks to ensure participation of young people in leadership and decision-making bodies, from the Constitution itself by providing freedom of association, the right to participate in the elections as either voters or contestants, and many others. But also we have the National Youth Development Policy of 2007, which shows how the nation will be engaging young people in leadership and many other aspects. But also we have the National Youth Council Act number 12 of 2015, which clearly indicates how Tanzania will be engaging young people in leadership from the grassroots levels to the national levels. But we have good policies, the implementation is adverse. Starting with the development policy of 2007, in my understanding, in best practices, after some time you have to update the policy. Even this one of the 2007, we created it after updating the former policy of 1996 after 10 years. But now, since 2017, whereby we expected to have a new development-based policy of young people, it is now 6 years. We do not have a new youth development policy. But also, it is also now 8 years since the enactment of the National Youth Council Act. We still don't have the National Youth Council Act, and which affects, for a large extent, participation of young people in leadership and decision-making processes. Looking out to other countries nearby, Kenya, Uganda, and others, they have the National Youth Councils, and it has been, for great extent, addressing, influencing young people to participate in leadership and democratic processes and their engagement as well. I will now conclude. In my conclusion, first, I think we need to keep the efforts of engaging young people in leadership and democratic processes by ensuring there is no legal or constitutional barriers for youth. Think of young people between the age of 18, 19, and 20 who have the rights to vote, but they don't have the right to contest. Think of all the young people below the age of 35 years who don't have the right to contest for presidential seat because they don't have 40 years. Why should we have those kind of restrictions? That's first. But second, those few young people who get leadership position in this country, I think they need to do more good work so that to change the perception of the community on the ability of young people in leadership. Because now we still see like vijana ni taifa la kesho. So at least we need to show them, for those few who get positions, to make sure that they do the good work, at least to change the perception. But the last thing, I have seen the United Nations Secretary General has established the UN Youth Envoy, who advises the Secretary General on issues of youth affairs. I have also seen the Mohamed Faki, the chair of the African Union Commission, established the AU Youth Envoy, who advises the Commission on youth affairs. I have also seen the President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda has established the Presidential Youth Advisor on Youth Affairs, but also the President Hagel of Namibia has also established a Presidential Youth Advisor on youth affairs to the President. I'm wondering if it's possible, maybe, for Tanzania as well, the President can think of appointing a young person to be advising the President on youth affairs. I don't know who is advising now the President the issues of youth, and I'm not sure if he's a young person. But I know the President has been appointing different advisors, like Dr. Brandina Kilama, advisor President for economy, but also Lukuvi is back for political and community affairs, and many others. So maybe we can also take a young person to be advisor of the President on issues of youth affairs. And lastly, let me congratulate the government of Zanzibar for appointing a minister of youth who is a young person. So it is very possible if we prioritize that kind of thing and put young leaders in the forefront of leadership and decision-making process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marekela. After these three presentations, then we have two discussants, and we start with Dr. Mbunda, 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, distinguished participants, I've read the papers of these three great presenters, and of course, as a discussant, my role is threefold. First, to point out gaps. We call it purging holes. Yeah? But second is to fill the gaps. We call it constructive criticism. And third, to raise issues of, for broader consideration during the debate. Now, because these presentations are so great and we have enjoyed listening to them, I will not do the first and second role. I'll only do the third role, raising more issues for, broader consideration in our discussion. So my name is Richard Mbunda. I am a political scientist from the Department of Political Science and Public Administration of the University of Dar es Salaam. Now, what we clearly see, or the common theme that runs through all these presentations, are that there are specific civic competencies that should be inculcated to young people in schools in order to make them, competent future citizens. And unfortunately, we've heard lamentations from almost all of them, lamenting about the curriculum. The civic competencies are probably not there. The method of inculcating these civic competencies, including the agency, the teachers who are supposed to, to be the one who are passing through the competencies. And finally, of course, we've heard the testimony from a young leader who is also doubtful about the competence of youth as future citizens. Now, political analysts believe that political participation is dependent on the prevailing political culture. So I'm going to talk about political culture, Mr. Chair. And political culture is often articulated in three orientations. The first orientation is people's knowledge of their political system. So basically, the competencies here, the competencies that we talk about, are to do with people's knowledge of the political system. This is referred to as cognitive orientation. But secondly, there are feelings regarding politicians and the performance of the political system. This is referred to as affective domain, and it is based on their, lived experiences. But third, their opinion towards the political system and its objectives. It is called evaluative orientation. Of course, you can measure all these orientations, whether it is cognitive, affective, or orientation. Now, if we gauge these competencies or these orientations, they can help us to understand the political competence of a society. And these competencies are, in most cases, divided into two: citizen competence and subject competence. So by citizen competence, we talk about one having knowledge of the political system, including, their rights and obligations, and ability to influence the political system. We say that a citizen has the competencies that is required. But on the subject competence, we refer to, citizens who have less knowledge of the political system, and they are unable to influence the political systems. Now, this actually reminded me of a survey that was carried out by Reddit, and I'm glad the chair is here, who is also our generous host, Professor Mkandara. There was Tanzania's political culture, a baseline survey that was carried out in the 1990s, but the publication that I'm making reference to was published in 2001, and it is my humble advice to the chair that if you can update this study in order to gauge the current political competence of Tanzania, I think it will be a great deal. Thank you if you have accepted. Now, yes. The impression that we get from this...
Dr. Mbunda, you should be concluding now. The time.
Yes, thank you. So the impression that we get from this survey is that Tanzanians are calm, submissive, and they are generally subjects, not participants. This was the impression that we got from. That's why I'm asking the professor if we can update this survey. And this is not good news. It is not good news at all. Reasons that were given: one-party political system, it made people look very submissive. But also fear of coercion. So coercion here can be political coercion, or in schools, because we are talking about schools here. Fear of being coerced by the teachers, the agents that we are making reference here to. So basically, even when we are talking, and Mr. Chair, I'll be concluding very soon. So if we look at the young people currently, and you can say maybe briefly after the reintroduction of multi-party politics in Tanzania, this orientation was about to change. Societies were vibrant. Even here at the University of Diaspora, when I was a student here, for example, an undergraduate student, the issue like investment in the post, for example, the DP World saga would have assembled us, assembled at the Revolution Square. But now you ask these students if they know where the Rev Square is. They don't know. They are the young people that we are talking about here. All they know, actually, is, to call themselves lies, lies of certain politicians. Chawa, You've heard of that, chawa. It is very, very, easy and quick for them to call themselves chawa rather than to question issues that have, national interest at the center stage. Okay, conclusion, Mr. Chair. I want to agree with Dr. Mena that we have problems with our curriculum. And of course, again, Dr. Perpetua. And for me, what I would say is that we need to decolonize the curriculum. I agree that the content of the curriculum, what is supposed to be taught to our students, at the primary school level, actually, what is being highlighted, which has to do with civic competence or civic education, is patriotism. And you know what patriotism is? Patriotism is loyalty to the government. It is not nationalism, because nationalism is love for one's country. So basically, what we do, and what we teachers actually, I'm also a teacher, and no matter the story, what we actually do is we teach them to be obedient, not to question issues. And I'm not sure if we are doing justice on that front. But I also looked at, the content of the curriculum at ordinary level and A levels. They are emphasizing civic responsibilities and obligations. Civic responsibilities and obligations. No civil and political rights, because when we talk about civil and political rights, it's basically when you can ask, where is our position as young people, in the leadership of this country? And you've said the statistics, 35% of the total population, 65%, and these stats are not changing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Bunda will have a discussion later then. Then the last discussant, Mr. Rugete.
Thank you. Nashukuru sana mwenyekiti kwa maslahi mapana ya wanafunzi wa sekondari walioko juu pale. Naona wengi wamesinzia. Labda inawezekana kimombo ni kikubwa kwao. Kwa hiyo ningeomba kukiheshimisha Kiswahili chetu. Ndugu mwenyekiti, katika mada hii nimebaini yafuatayo. Kwanza, naitwa Rugete Musa Rugete, mchambuzi wa siasa za kimataifa, mwana majumui na mwalimu wa history kutoka shule ya sekondari ya Alpha. Kuna mambo kadhaa ambayo walimu yanatupa shida. Mojawapo ni kufikia target ya mwajiri. Tunapoletewa watoto tunaambiwa huyu lazima apate A kila somo. Kwa hiyo tunatumia muda mwingi kutengeneza matokeo kuliko kumpa mwanafunzi maarifa ambayo yatamfanya kuwa na ujuzi nje ya darasa. Na ndiyo maana utakutana na mtoto aliyepata 1 ya 7 form 4 au 1 ya 3 form 6, lakini hana lolote kichwani kwake. Amefaulu, ana A ya Civics, ya History, ya Geography, lakini ukimwambia naomba unieleze ni kwa jinsi gani mahakama za mwanzo zinavyoshughulikia migogoro ya ardhi, hajui. Naomba uniambie diwani wako ni nani, hajui. Naomba uniambie umeshiriki kwenye mikutano mingapi ya serikali za mtaa kwa ajili ya changamoto zote, hajui. Hata mbunge hamjui. Lakini amefaulu, ana 1 ya 7, form 6 ana 1 ya 3. Ni TO Tanzania 1. Lakini hana lolote kichwani kwake zaidi ya kujua causes of French Revolution, factors affecting democracy. Lakini kingine ambacho tunapaswa kujua, muda wa hizi klabu mbalimbali shuleni hautoshi. Klabu kama TAKUKURU za kuwaelimisha wanafunzi namna ya kupambana na rushwa, klabu kama HIV, klabu za kodi, UN klabu, tuna klabu zaidi ya 200 ambazo zipo mashuleni kwa ajili ya kuwafundisha wanafunzi mambo mbalimbali watakao kutana nayo baada ya shule. Lakini hautoshi. Shule nyingi binafsi na chache za serikali wanafundisha asubuhi, vipindi vya mchana mpaka na usiku ili kuhakikisha wanafunzi wote wanapata division 1. Kwa hiyo mwalimu ni lazima uwe katika mfumo wa kuandaa matokeo kuliko kumwandaa mwanafunzi kushiriki kwenye demokrasia na michakato mingine ambayo itamfanya mwanafunzi kuwa mwanazuoni na sio mwanafunzi wa kujibu mitihani. Lakini swali lingine ambalo nataka kuzua mada ni kuhusu hili somo jipya la Tanzanian History and Ethics. Somo hili kwa kweli kama taifa ni lazima tufikiri kwa kina kabla ya kuleta matatizo. Mfano, tunapozungumza Tanzanian History and Ethics, tumejikita zaidi utamaduni wa Mtanzania kabla ya ukoloni, baada na sasa. Lakini dunia ina mambo mengi ambayo mwanafunzi anapaswa kuyajua ili kuendana na changamoto na mabadiliko ya ulimwengu. Kwa kufanya hivi, tutakuwa tumejifungia. Na katika ulimwengu huu wa sayansi na teknolojia, hakuna jambo baya kama kujifungia wewe mwenyewe. Lakini wengine wanasema kujifungia ni kuzuri. Siona wenzetu wa North Korea wamepiga hatua, wamejifungia. Kujifungia sio kuzuri kama tunataka kuwa na muingiliano wa kiwanazuoni. Kwa maana ya kwamba tunataka mwanafunzi wa kidato cha 6 wa hapa aweze kucompete na mwanafunzi aliyesoma AS au Cambridge curriculum huko Marekani na nchi zingine za kidunia. Lakini kama tutaendelea kujifungia sisi kwa sisi tu, sijui tutakuwa tutatengeneza wasomi wa aina gani kuanzia level ya sekondari na tunakoelekea. Kwa kweli kwa bibi hili labda zingeongezwa mada zingine, lakini kwa jinsi nilivyosoma hii somo jipya linaloenda kufundishwa baadaye, kwa kweli kuna changamoto ambazo ni lazima maoni ya watu wengi yakusanywe, tujue tunataka kujenga taifa la aina gani. Lakini kitu kingine, ushiriki wa walimu wa wanafunzi na walimu katika michakato ya demokrasia mashuleni na nje, hii nayo ni changamoto. Mfano, shule nyingi huwa hawapendi wanafunzi wanaopenda kuhoji. Mwanafunzi ukiwa kiherehere sana ni tatizo. Kuna shule moja Kigoma, wanafunzi inamilikiwa na Waislamu, inaitwa Jihadi. Wanafunzi waliandamana, wamekula ugali na maharagi asubuhi, mchana na jioni. Imepita kama wiki 2. Wakatoka hapo, wakaenda mpaka kwa mkuu wa wilaya. Kaambia bali haiwezekani, kila siku ugali beans. Mwisho wa mwaka, kufungua mwakani, baadhi wakaambiwa watafute shule zingine kwamba shule imejaa. Zikaja sababu zingine ili wahamishwe kwamba ni vihelehele. Kwa hiyo sasa hata shule pia inataka wanafunzi ambao ni watulivu, wanajazwa hofu na imani. Tuna hizi shule za dini ni sala tu. Kwamba ukitaka tu kuoje unaambia Yesu hapendi hivi vitu. Sasa kwa hiyo hata mifumo ya shule inaminya mchakato wa wanafunzi kushiriki katika demokrasia. Lakini hata walimu wenyewe ambao wanatetea haki za wanafunzi wako hatarini kupoteza vibarua vyao. Nitatoa mfano mmoja wa Mwalimu Nyerere. Alifukuzwa St. Francis ambao tunaita Pugu. Aliambiwa achague kati ya kuwa mwalimu au kufanya harakati zake za kisiasa. Hapo Mwalimu Nyerere alishakutana na kina Abdulhadi Sachs, wakina Joseph Kasela Bantu, akasema siasa ni nzuri kuliko ualimu. Kwa hiyo unaona. Lakini pia kuna mwanazuoni mwingine Walter Rodney amefundisha history hapa. Mwaka 80 alienda kule Guyana, visiwa vya Caribbean, akaanza vuguvugu za kisiasa kutaka kuangusha serikali. Hata rais akipia akasema bwana msimtania, akawaita usalama wa taifa, bwana huyu jamaa hatumtaki. Jamaa akarushiwa bomu, akalipuliwa. Kwa hiyo hata wanafunzi wanaojihusisha katika siasa inategemeana upo katika mrengo upi. Upo mrengo wa kushoto, upate matatizo, au mrengo wa kulia.
Uhitimishe muda.
Naomba kuhitimisha kwa kusema kwamba kwa kweli tunahitaji muda wa kutosha kwa wanafunzi kuwafundisha michakato ya demokrasia ndani na nje. Mfano, walimu wawachukue wanafunzi wawapeleke kwenye mahakama za mwanzo za wilaya na za mkoa, wanafunzi waone jinsi wanavyoendesha kesi. Wanafunzi wanafundishwa kuhusu separation of power, kwamba kuna mihimili mitatu, wanafunzi waende mahakamani, wapelekwe bungeni na maeneo mengine ili wapate ile political willingness, kwa sababu mtu hawezi kufanya jambo ambalo hajalitamani. Huwezi kufanya jambo ambalo hawajalitamani. Kwa hiyo tunataka tuongeze wigo kwa wanafunzi. Tunataka tuongeze wigo kwa wanafunzi ili waweze kushiriki kwenye midaharo ya kisiasa, kijamii, ili tuweze kuwa na kizazi kinachohoji, sio kizazi kinachotekeleza yale yenye manufaa kwa watu wachache. Asanteni sana kwa kunisikiliza.
Asante sana. Asante sana. Thank you so much, presenters and discussants. And I think now we have 30 minutes of discussion. And we'll at least take the first 4. And my wish was if we could have a good number of students having questions or contribution will be better than other intellectuals. Do we have any students there? Wanafunzi? Yeah, tuna wanafunzi moja kule. Then tuna askofu hapa na nyuma yake tena, then nyuma yake tena. So we have 4. Na tutaanza moja kwa moja na mwanafunzi. Dakika moja tu kuuliza.
Kwa majina anaitwa Stefano Raymond Udamwa, mwanafunzi wa chuo hiki kikuu cha Dar es Salaam. Nasomea ualimu mwaka wa kwanza. Allow me to use Kiswahili, my local language. Kwa mzungumzaji wa kwanza, wa pili alizungumzia kuhusiana na democracy. Na katika hiyo democracy alikuwa anazungumzia upande wa walimu na wanafunzi. Ni sawa, na hizi mada za democracy tunafundishwa sana mashuleni huko, kutoka shule ya msingi hadi nafika vyuo vikuu. Lakini ukitaka kuangalia hizi mada zinakosa kipengele cha ufanyaji kazi, application part. Tunasoma tu kwa sababu ya kujibia mitihani. Yaani kila siku utajikuta unaulizwa principle of democracy, mwanafunzi anazijibu, anazipata zote. Lakini kama alivyozungumza mzungumzaji wa pili kutoka mwisho, vinakosa sehemu ya kwenda kuvifanyia kazi. Sisi kama walimu tunaenda kufundisha kwa sababu curriculum inatueleza kwamba fundisha hiki. Lakini huyu mwanafunzi anataka aenda akagombania awe kiongozi. Anaenda kuwa kiongozi, ndio tunapata naambia wala rushwa, kwa sababu kile kitu alikifundisha tu kwa ajili ya kujibia nini? Mitihani. Kwa hiyo inabidi liangaliwe na serikali, liangaliwe pia na viongozi mbalimbali. Hivi vitu vipate application part ya kwenda kuvifanyia. Tutajikuta tunapata A za masomo, lakini kwenda kufanyia kazi hivi vitu hatuwezi. Lakini kitu kingine kwa haraka, third presenter alizungumzia issue ya ushirikishwaji katika masuala ya uongozi. Je, serikali kama mnavyoteua mnasema kuna kijana mmoja kateuliwa. Hasa huyo kijana mmoja anavyoteuliwa ataenda kufanya kazi gani akiwa peke yake? Wamekaa wazee wameshikilia vitengo kule. Ukitaka kuongea, wewe unaongea wewe ni nani? Hayo masuala inabidi angaliwe. Unapomweka kijana unamweka kafanye kazi na nani? Kwa hiyo ushirikishwaji wa watu kama ni vijana tushirikishwe wengi na sio kuwa ni watu fulani au mtu wa kiongozi fulani. Ukisikia tu jina fulani la mwisho, Tibaijuka na mtoto wake atakuwa hivyo hivyo. Sijui nani. Kwa hiyo inabidi aongelewe na yatafutiwe uvumbuzi haya masuala. Asanteni sana.
Yeah, I would like to register my thanks for all presenters and those who responded to the main topic. I have 2 issues that I would like to raise, and you will decide by yourself whether they are questions or just comments. Number 1, from what I understood from your presentations, Tanzania, we are still in the experimentation stage of curriculum. Tuko kwenye majaribio. 60 years after independence, this is pathetic, that we are still doing experimentation. Every Minister of Education comes with his or her curriculum, and when that person leaves, another one comes in. So this experimentation, I think, in my view, is the root cause of what we are lamenting here about the downfall of the level and the quality of education in our country. There is pending dangers about it. Since we are multipartism now, and we're emphasizing privatization of everything, and we live in the eras of investors, there is a day we will have to embark on experimenting the curriculum imposed on us by these factors. What will happen? I think somebody quoted about Walter Rodney when he was teaching here. I think for those who were here at that time, you remember his popular saying about producing what you are not consuming and consuming what you are not. Yeah. And I think that's what's happening now. We have a lot of universities in these countries, but as I said earlier in some of the other forums, a lot of universities and a lot of wajingas around. During our time, this was the only university in this country, but we managed to eliminate illiteracy in this country by using one university. Now we have 50 plus universities, but a lot of wajingas around. And that's why you are lamenting. You are teaching and at the same time lamenting. Yeah. Can we halt? Can we stop this experimentation and conclude it and then try to implement what we are lamenting about? And who should do that? It's you. It's you. The fifth phase government, one of the good things they did, it was to appoint all these dons and professors from this university and deploy them in different sectors. But yet we are still lamenting. Where all other sectors in the country, they are full of professors and PhDs and etc. So why are you complaining about it? Where you are holding and actually conducting, and do you expect a mwananchi from the village to come and give us a good curriculum? Is that what you're trying to tell us? Come on, I think you should do better than what you are doing now. Secondly, it's about democracy in schools. My theory is that democratic values in institutions is part of the larger, is a subset of the larger democracy in a larger society. So when you see that in institutions there is no democratic values, it means in the larger society there is no democracy. You should not expect democracy in schools if in society there is no democratic values. So our education system is a hostage of unfreedoms in many areas. Students go to schools which they do not choose. It's parents who choose. It's economy that dictates where the students should go. It's the government board that selects somebody to go to a certain school, and if you don't like, stay at home. So you go to a school that you didn't choose. At school, when you go there, you study what is available, not what you want. And then, you are taught by a teacher that you didn't select. Somebody says somebody should go and teach certain class. Teacher comes in and you have to study, whether you like a teacher or not. And then teachers are chronically, I know them because I once was a teacher too, teachers always declare that they know everything and the students know nothing. That is the relationship between a teacher and a student. And then, finally, in this country, democracy belongs to politics. And politics is forbidden in schools. And here we are complaining about lack of democracy in schools. Well, we have declared politics to be out of bound in school environment. I think we should do better than lamenting. And these are simple things that I think we should be able to deal with. University of Dar es Salaam is the beacon of transformation. We come here, sometimes we don't know even how to walk around because we really think solutions for this country belongs to the University of Dar es Salaam. Thank you so much.
Asante. Naitwa Dr. Ave Maria Semakafu. Mimi sasa hivi ni mstaafu. Nilikuwa mwalimu mhadhiri chuo kikuu cha sayansi za tiba Muhimbili. Nashukuru kwa presenters wetu ambao wameongelea swala la vijana, ambalo kwa upande wangu mimi ni specialist wa vijana na wanawake na watoto. Sasa labda kwa presenters ningependa mtuchechemulie, mnapoongelea vijana mna maana ya nani? Kijana ni nani? Ningekuwa imependeza sana. Manake kwa akili za haraka haraka nilipoona na analysis, kijana ni mtoto wa kiume. That is wrong. Mnapoongelea na kufanya tafiti zenu, ni vizuri mkapambanua vijana wa kike na wa kiume, kwa sababu hata approach na jinsi ya kuengage ni tofauti. Kwa hiyo kwa hapo niliposikilia mnaongelea, kila mtu alikuwa anajitazama mikaka, approach ilikuwa ni sisi wanaume. Hilo ni la kwanza. Lakini la pili, nitapenda kurudi kwenye neno demokrasi. Demokrasia, kama alivyoongea hapa Askofu Bagonza, tunaichukulia vipi? Manake katika malalamishi niliyosikia, nitaongelea neno complain, mmelalamika, lakini ninahisi kuna kwingine vile vile ni lack ya nyinyi wenyewe vijana kuto kushiriki. Tunapoongelea demokrasia ni siasa ya uwakilishi. Nimempenda discussant alikuwa anauliza, tuko hapa unasema wewe unataka ukashiriki kugombea kitu fulani. Ni mara ngapi umeshiriki mikutano ya mtaani kwenu? Ni mara ngapi umeshiriki kutaka kujua anayekuwa dede anatakiwa kuwa nani? Manake kuna kitu ambacho tulikipata, mwenyekiti wangu wa kikosi kazi utanisamehe. Kuna changamoto imekuja, politicization of civil service, ambayo nimeona nyinyi mnaisapoti. Rasi hatakiwi kuwa appointed. Yule ni civil servant ambaye anatakiwa aende pale, afike pale kwa kujua vigezo, sheria za kazi na kila kitu. Dede hatakiwi kuwa mwanasiasa. Lakini sasa hivi ndio imekuwa wagombea wa 2015 wamekuwa madedi mwaka unaofuatia. Umenielewa? Kwa hiyo that is politicization. Kwa hiyo kama tunaongea democracy, tuiongee ile demokrasia ya halali ambayo itafungua fursa kwa wote, moja. Lakini mbili, unasema ukitokea kijana unaambiwa wewe mbunge wa akiba, umesema. Sasa mjiulize, twende tu haraka haraka, vijana wanafanya nini huko mitaani? Taswira ya kijana wa kike na wa kiume mtaani iko vipi? Kesho anasema kijana anakuja, wenzako wanamlinganisha na yule aliyoko pale pembeni. Kwa hiyo kazi ya kwanza vijana kujitambua nyinyi wenyewe na kuweza kutoka. Na tatu, kuna statement nimeiona kuhusiana na mitaala. Inasema kwamba wanaotengeneza mitaala ni wahadhiri wa vyuo vikuu. Naomba nirekebishe, ni walimu wanashiriki kuandika ile mitaala. Walimu wa kwetu wa shule za msingi na shule za serikali. At least kwa hapo naomba niseme, ila wanaandika nini ni wao wanachaguliwa kutoka shule za primary na za private na za serikali wanaandika. Ila kikubwa tulichoambiwa, shule zetu siku hizi tunautafuta utanzania 1. Mwaka huu NECTA wamejaribu kusema hawaweki ranking ya wanafunzi. Nadhani mliona mitaani watu walivyotaka. Kila mtu anataka Tanzania 1. Lakini je, mkijiuliza kuna baadhi humu ndani mmepita shule za kata. Na nyinyi ndio mnayoongoza humu darasani. Chuo kikuu mmefika, wanaoongoza wengine ni wa vyuo vya kata, shule za kata zile zinazoitwa za kata. Hizo nyingine, je, wale waliokuwa Tanzania 1 wako wapi? Kwa hiyo mimi nadhani turudi, tunapopata tatizo tujaribu kuangalia mzizi wake ni upi, ili tuukate tuwe tumemaliza ile fitna. Lakini tukisema tu tunatazama juu, mwalimu anafundisha anafanya nini, haisaidii kitu. Je, anafundisha ili kiwe nini? Nimeshukuru sana discussant namba 2 ameiongelea hiyo. Tunapambana kutoa A. Hiyo A ukiuliza hakuna. Darasa la 4 la mama yangu ni tofauti na darasa hata form 4 ya sasa hivi. Kwa sababu wakati ule watu walikuwa wanatumika kufikiria zaidi. Kwa hiyo nadhani kwa vijana wetu wa kike na wa kiume, kwa nyinyi viongozi ambao mnachipukia, tunaita mnachipukia, nadhani mna kazi ya kurudi chini kutafakari ni jinsi gani mtatoka. Sio kwa sababu mmeona Ave Maria kateuliwa pale ni kijana mwenzetu, mimi nikimtazama yule mimi nimemzidi. Ni kitu gani kitasaidia kuweka uwanda ulio sawa, na jinsi gani kama vijana mtaweza kupigania kutatua mgogoro wa nchi yetu. Asante.
Naitwa Mwalimu Ifigenia Aule, ni mkuu wa shule ya sekondari Nganza Girls iko Mwanza. Kwanza leo nimefurahi kuliko jana, kwa sababu leo naona yananihusu kwa asilimia kubwa. Nina mambo kama mawili. La kwanza ni kwa Dr. Perpetua, nikubaliane na wewe kwamba ni kweli walimu wanaofundisha civics na general study 90% ni wa masomo mengine, sio professional teachers. Na serikali lilitazama na vyuo vimeanza kutoa professional teacher. Kwa niombe tu sasa kupitia festive hii iweze kuandaa kitu na kushauri serikali, walipoweka kipaumbele kuajili walimu wa sayansi, basi waingize pia kipaumbele kuajili walimu wa civics, kwa sababu wapo tayari mitaani. Tutaokoa hilo tatizo. Lakini cha pili pia ninajaribu kufikiri haya mambo makubwa mazuri yanayowahusu vijana. Je, walezi wa vijana wanayajua na vijana wenyewe wanafahamu na yanawafikia? Hilo lilikuwa ni swali ambalo nilijiuliza sana jana usiku. Kwanza, kwa nini mimi nimealikwa na nini naweza kusababisha Nganza Girls kuwa na mabadiliko haya? Kwa hiyo ni shauri tu, kweli hizi klabu ziko nyingi, alafu zinapoanzishwa zinaanzishwa kwa muda, baada ya miezi miwili zimekufa. Ile nguvu inayotumika kuanzisha kwa huo wakati ziko nyingi mno, tunashindwa kuziendesha. Kwa hiyo tukisema tupeleke zile klabu, zitakuwa kama tu klabu za rushwa, klabu zile nyingine zipo tu nyingi kweli, hazina hata muda wa kuweza kuzifanyia kazi. Ila nikafikiri kwamba kwa kuwa tayari tuna Mwalimu Nyerere na tarehe yake ipo kabisa ndani ya serikali na ni mapumziko, tunaweza kutumia muda huo sasa kuwa na makongamano kama hayo kwenye ngazi ya shule. Kwamba hiyo siku kwa vile wako mapumziko, kwa hiyo ngazi ya shule ile wanaweza wakakaa, tukaandaa vitu kama hivi, tukawa na mada ambazo vijana zitawafaa na wataweza kupata kitu, na wawakilishi ambao wanaweza kupresent zile mada kwa siku moja kwa mwaka, na kwa sababu ni siku ya free tunaweza kupata kitu kikubwa. Asante sana.
Presenters to respond first. Then if you have time, then we have another session, another round of questions. Let us start with Dr. Dr. Wilberforce, if you have any to respond to what.
Halo. Mimi nafikiri kutokana na michango mingi iliyotolewa hapa, kwa kweli ni maoni, sioni kitu ambacho naweza kurespondi moja kwa moja, lakini nachozungumzia kuhusu askofu alipozungumzia mabadiliko yanayotokea ya mitaala mara kwa mara. Nafikiri changamoto kubwa tulionayo ni kwamba hatutekelezi vizuri ile mitaala ambayo tunaianzisha. Kwa hiyo kwa sababu utekelezaji unakuwa sio mzuri sana, tunafikiria kila wakati kubadilisha. Tunatakiwa tukija na, kwa mfano tulipoanzisha elimu ya kujitegemea kama dhana na mitaala, wakati ule utekelezaji ulikuwa na changamoto kubwa sana. Na sasa tuna mitaala ambayo tunaita ni mitaala ya umahiri, competence based. Tumeanza nayo toka 2005. Utekelezaji haukuwa mzuri sana. Kwa hiyo tunaposhindwa kuwekeza vya kutosha katika utekelezaji, sasa tunafikiri kwenda kwenye kitu kingine. Nafikiri na hiyo ndio changamoto kubwa, kwamba tukifanya maamuzi tuyafanye vizuri, tuwekeze vya kutosha, tuzingatie taratibu zote na tuutekeleze ule mtaala tuliouanzisha kwa kiwango cha asilimia za kutosha. Na tuseme kweli sasa huu tumeutekeleza wa kutosha, tunastahili kwenda wakati mwingine. Lakini wakati mwingine tunaruka juu hata kabla huu mwingine hatujaumaliza. Nafikiri hiyo ndio, na hiyo na la pili ni hiyo, kila wakati mitaala inapata shida, kwamba kila panapotokea matatizo katika jamii, watu wanafikiri shule ndio inaweza kutatua matatizo yote. Lakini kwa kweli shule haiwezi kufundisha kila kitu. Kuna vipindi vichache tu vya shule. Kuna mambo mengine mengi yanatakiwa yafanyike nje ya mfumo wa shule. Kwa nafikiri mimi la kwangu la kuzungumzia ni hilo tu. Na kuhusu mabadiliko ya mitaala, ni kweli zungumzia the general concept ile yenyewe, leading that.
Nafikiri sasa muda haujawa rafiki sana kwetu. Mawazo mengi yaliyotolewa ni contributions na si maswali. Ninapenda kusema huu ndio mwisho wa discussion yetu hii, kipindi cha kwanza. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Haki Elimu, presenters and discussant. As we are about to break for tea, I wish to highlight some of the key messages from their presentation. We were informed that schools and curriculum as institutions to support democratic culture among the students have failed. We are also informed from the discussion that representation and participation of youth in democratic institutions such as political parties, elections, are very limited. The discussant, Dr. Mbunda, highlighted to us that actually Tanzanian societies are subject to culture and not participant culture. So we should not be surprised to see that our youth are very proud to identify themselves as chawers rather than be critical to the issues that pertain the national interest. As for Mr. Lugete, kwa lugha ya mitandao tunasema wengi kwa yale aliyozungumza. So our next item is that, and I trust that we are all aware of the geography. We shall use the same places today. So we should break, and we'll see you after 30 minutes. For presents PowerPoint, please present to us your, so that we can be prepared when we come back. Thank you.